Hello, my name is Modja and welcome to Polyglot Principles. In Polyglot Principles, I help you to learn a language like a genius by applying the principles of language learning. Today's video, and I publish a video every single Monday at 8 a.m. Central African Time. And today's video has the following. Here's the subject of the video: how to quickly learn a language from scratch. How do you learn a language from scratch? And you want to learn it quickly, right? You don't want to spend think about it. You've probably had this experience before, right? If you're watching this video, it means you're interested in learning languages. Perhaps you've tried to learn a language before. And if you've never done it before, even if you've done it before, it's kind of overwhelming to learn a new language. Thousands of words, so many things to know, so many pronunciations. Maybe you turn on the radio or watch a video and you can't understand a goddamn thing that's being said. So it's a very daunting task to learn a new language. And obviously, if you had the option, you'd want to know the language tomorrow, right? It's just not possible. You don't know how to learn the language yesterday, right? So really, this is why you're focused on, although you can't learn the language yesterday, and maybe you're not going to learn it by tomorrow, it's not going to be learned overnight, you want to learn the language as quickly as possible, right? So the question is, how do you learn a language from scratch as quickly as possible, right? That's what we're going to be focusing on today. Now I'm going to give you various tips to do it, and I'm going to save the last tip for last. So if you want to know the most important tip, I'm saving it for last, so you'll have to go to the end of the video. Now, before we start actually answering this question, how to learn a language from scratch, I do have a question for you. So, what has been your biggest challenge so far, right? So far, what has been your biggest challenge in learning a foreign language? Right. So, I want to know, I'm really interested in knowing what your struggles are and learning from you, right? So, if you have an answer to that question, what your biggest challenge has been in language learning, please add it in the comment section below, and I'll actually respond to some of the comments. Okay, so let's dig into it. The first key thing when it comes to language learning is to begin with pronunciation. This is my first most important tip. Begin with pronunciation. Now, typically in the school system, we're not taught this. We're not taught to start with pronunciation. We start learning new words, how to say hello, how to communicate basic ideas. We start by talking, and we don't spend time learning how to pronounce. And usually the idea is that if you have a bad accent, no problem, you'll fix the accent later on. So this is a fundamental flaw. Here's why. The basis, you have to, if you want, you need to record this somewhere. The basis of language is sound. I repeat, the basis of language is sound. Right? When you talk about human languages that we're speaking, they're based on sound, right? So literally, what is a language? It's just a bunch of sounds put together, a bunch of noises put together, okay? So if you can't produce those noises, then you can't really speak the language. You see, how you produce those sounds determines whether people understand you or not. So if you're not able to produce the sounds correctly, what's going to happen is that people are not going to understand you. Perhaps you've had this experience before, where you've been learning a language for months or years, you open your mouth to speak, and foreign and natives have no idea what the heck you're talking about. This is a terrible feeling, obviously, right? Because you're not communicating, right? So this is one reason why it's important to start with sound and pronunciation, in order for you to be understood. People at least can be able to make out what you're trying to say, the words that you're trying to pronounce. And the other most important thing is that, again, if you don't understand, if you can't produce the sounds and you don't know the sounds well, you're not going to be able to identify them when native speakers make those sounds. When people speak in the language, like if you don't spend time learning German pronunciation, when German people start speaking, you're not going to understand a word they're saying. You're not going to be able to identify any words they mention, right? Any German words they mention, right? You might understand some English words, but no German words. And why is this? Well, because you haven't spent time to learn the sounds of the language, right? The basis of a language is sound, right? So if you don't get the sound out of the way, everything is going to be difficult for you. Speaking is going to be difficult, listening is going to be difficult, identifying the words that people are using is going to be difficult. so you're going to have a hard time expressing them yourself, right? And it's just going to become discouraging over time, right? So it seems strange, but when I learn a language, I do not start with vocabulary. I do not start with learning how to say hello, how to describe the weather, what is my name, none of that nonsense. The first thing is to start with the most important problem, the most fundamental thing, which is sound. Right? So for example, I've done this a couple of times, right? When I was learning Chinese, for instance, I mean, my Chinese would be beginner level, right? But I kept getting complimented by Chinese speakers on my great pronunciation and on how much of a natural I was. And this is another interesting benefit, right? When you learn the pronunciation of a language, right? So when it comes to German, I spent 1 week learning how to pronounce German words. No, sorry, German sounds, the various sounds, the R sound, rot, that kind of rot, orange, that sound, right? So I spent time pronouncing all sorts of sounds. And then when I did that, native speakers began to compliment me on what a great how I speak with no accent, what a natural I am, how good I am at the language, right? These compliments did not come because I'm somehow special. They came from me having spent time learning the pronunciation, all right? Now, and I've done this several times to know that it's not a fluke. When I was learning Spanish, I spent time learning the pronunciation. And sure enough, the Spanish people are complimenting me on what a natural I am. When I did it with Chinese, the same thing. I was told that I have great oral control. But I knew the truth. I didn't have great oral control. The fact was that I had spent 1 week at the start of the language learning how to pronounce. Okay, there's a truck passing by. I spent 1 week learning how to pronounce the sounds correctly, right? And that work paid off, right? So once you learn how to pronounce the sounds of a language, once you do that, the first step, I'm spending a lot of time on this because it's very important and it is often very much ignored. The importance of pronunciation. People talk about working on your accent later. I'm like, you should work on your accent from the very beginning. That way you don't have to fix your accent later on, right? Here's another thing. If you mispronounce words and you don't pronounce things correctly, you're going to develop a habit of pronouncing words incorrectly. Then now you've learned thousands of words incorrectly. Good luck trying to change that. It's going to be a hard time. That's why it's best to start from the very beginning. And if I could only tell you one thing in this video, only one tip for learning a language from scratch, this would be it. Begin with sound, begin with pronunciation. Once you do that, native speakers will begin to compliment you on what a natural you are. This will give you confidence, which will encourage you to study even more, which will get you to be complimented even more, this is a self-reinforcing cycle. All right? And once you're able to do this, now you develop a very important skill. Once you're able to pronounce things correctly and identify sounds in the language, you'll develop a skill that's very important. And that is the skill of being able to imitate the native speaker. Right? This is a very powerful skill because usually what will happen is you'll say something, and because your pronunciation is good, the native speaker will be able to get the words that you're trying to say and correct you. Now you want to be able to understand their correction. And if you can't do that if you don't understand the sound. If you understand the sound, then you can understand the correction they're trying to make. And then you can actually try to reproduce it yourself. And then they'll correct you and you'll reproduce it until you get it right. Okay? This is a key part of learning how to speak a language. This is why I can't emphasize it enough. And once you know how to produce the sounds, now you'll be able to understand the rhythm of the language. Every language is a piece of music. It has a rhythm, it has a flow, right? If you know how to pronounce things correctly and identify sounds, you can now begin to pick up the tonalities, the intonation, the musicality of the language. And once you do that, your ability to acquire vocabulary will accelerate. Your ability to pick up what people are saying will accelerate because you can pick up words because you've mastered the sounds, all right? So I've beaten this dead horse too much. Let us move to the second thing that is really important when you're learning a language from scratch and you want to learn it quickly. The second most important thing is speak as soon as possible, right? So some people say speak from day one. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say speak from day one because I'm saying first let's focus on pronunciation, not even speaking, pronunciation. But once you've pronounced, right, so usually when you focus on pronunciation, what you'll notice is that there are certain sounds that you already know how to pronounce, and then there'll be a few that you don't know how to pronounce, right? So, for example, with German, most of the sounds were familiar to me, but there were some that were new, like the R, rot, rot, wiederholen, right? The R. That was new to me, so I had to practice that, right? I don't even know if I have it perfect, but but I had to practice that a lot, right? To a point where native speakers can recognize it, okay? And there were other sounds also. Certain sounds, since I speak French, were already familiar to me, like E. That sound, I didn't have to learn it. I learned it from French. But if you don't speak French and you speak English, then you'll have to learn that sound, E sound, right? And the others are new, like right? From Deutsch, like glücklich, right? That kind of sound. Actually, glücklich is the U and double dot. But now I've gone on a tangent, haven't I? Okay, let's go back to the basics. When you're learning a language, there are gonna be many sounds that you already know, and then there'll be a few hard nuts to crack, sounds that you don't know, right? Now, question is, why am I bringing that up? Okay, I just lost my train of thought there. Oh, right. Okay. All right, let me get back on track. So the second tip was to speak as soon as possible. All right. Not at the very start, but as soon as you've learned. Oh, now it comes in. As soon as you've learned how to pronounce those difficult sounds for you, it's time to start the language. Start speaking in the language. But now your question will be, but Christian, but Modja, I mean, how am I going to start speaking the language if I don't know any words? All I know is the sounds. How am I going to start speaking the language? Well, there are many options. You have many options that you can do. Obviously, it's going to be hard to start talking without a single word. But there's things you can do. For example, at the very beginning, you can allow yourself a crutch. And that crutch could be like a dictionary. Let's say Google Translate or some other tool, right? So basically, you meet with a native speaker, right, or whoever your conversation partner is, and instead of trying to say the word in English or asking them for the word in English, you do it the hard way. You go to the dictionary. Let's say you want to say what? I am happy, right? But you're learning English, so you don't know the word I am or happy, right? So you look up the word, right? So for example, let's try it with German. Like let's say you want to say I am happy in German, right? You don't know what I means, so you go to the Google Translate and you type in I. It gives you the word ich, right? Ich. Then you go and type am. You find the word bin, glücklich, right? Happy, glücklich, or froh. Ich bin froh, right? And then there you have the sentence. So at the beginning it will be very slow and kind of frustrating because you have to keep looking in the dictionary. But what I've found is that native speakers and conversation partners are usually very understanding. And also the other thing to note is that you're not going to be doing this for long, right? At the beginning you'll be using the dictionary, looking up every other word, trying to express something. And by the way, notice that here you're not focused on speaking in a grammatically correct way. To hell with grammar. It means nothing. Your point is to communicate an idea. However, it doesn't matter if it's grammatical or not. You can just pick up enough words from your dictionary to be able to communicate the idea. If you communicate the idea and the other person understands, congratulations, you've succeeded, right? And so just proceed like this, right? Just proceed like this. And what you'll notice is that at the beginning it will be hard, then you'll get comfortable with doing it, and at a certain point, you'll be able to do it without the dictionary, right? For me, it took like maybe 3 to 4 conversations, and I was able to throw away Google Translate and rely totally on my own dexterity to communicate, right? So then the question becomes, well, okay, so what if I have a bit of vocabulary and now I'm speaking and I can't use a dictionary or any other resource? How am I going to be able to hold a conversation with a native speaker, let's say? So the thing is, there's a very important skill you need to have when it comes to speaking a language, and that's resourcefulness. I think the motivational speaker Tony Robbins said that the greatest resource a human being has is resourcefulness. The ability to use resources is the greatest resource. All right. So this is the same when it comes to you want to be able to use the words you have creatively, right? Once you become this kind of person, every word that you gain becomes a powerful weapon because you're so good at using very little. And this is what you'll gain from just speaking without using a dictionary or using your native language. So if I'm learning German, I'm not going to use English words. I'm not going to use an English dictionary. I'm just going to talk to a native directly, right? And I'm going to get stuck because I might want to say something and I don't know the word for it, right? In such a situation, because I have no option, my mind will come up with other possibilities. I might act out what I'm trying to say. I might do a facial expression, right? I remember when I was I'm still learning Deutsch right now. I'm in like intermediate levels, and I was looking for the word for pain, right? Which I have now forgotten. But I was looking for the word for how to say pain in Deutsch, and I didn't know how to say pain. So literally, what I would do is I didn't have any words, but I couldn't use English, right? So what I did was I'd hold my head and just scream ah, and hold another part of the body and just scream ah. It was kind of fun, but the really cool thing is that eventually the guy understood what I was trying to say and he gave me the word for pain, right? So when you do this often, when you do this kind of conversation where you're speaking from as soon as possible, once you've understood the pronunciation, you've started to speak, and you're doing what you can with the vocabulary that you have. Another thing you're going to notice, other than the fact that you're going to become resourceful, you're going to be able to use one word in so many contexts. The other thing that you'll notice is that the words that you know will be deeply ingrained, right? For example, in Deutsch learning, I didn't have many words for many, to express the concept of many. The only word I had was viele. Now I know one like mehrere. That also means many, but all I knew was viele. So because that was the only word I knew for many, I'd use it all the time. Viele, 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 viele. And guess what? The word was deeply ingrained in me, right? So this is the power, is that one is you're becoming resourceful. The other thing is that whatever you know it deeply. The other really powerful thing is that every new word you acquire becomes in your hands a very powerful weapon because you're so good at doing more with less. So this is very powerful. You want to speak as soon as possible and you want to speak as often as possible. I'd recommend perhaps daily, right? So right now I'm learning Deutsch, so I make sure to speak every single day, but I'm not always able. Sometimes the conversation partners are not available. So I mean, if I miss, it's going to be 2 days in a week that I don't speak Deutsch, but every single day I'm speaking in German, and I'm only speaking in German. And when I get stuck with words, we struggle together, but I'm never given the English word for anything. And then after the conversation, I can look up the words I was struggling with. All right. So I think we've also beaten another dead horse there. The third reason, right? The third, oh wow, my camera is almost dying. Okay. So the third way to learn a language from scratch, third tip is you want to work consistently, right? Every single day. It's better to learn 1 hour every single day than to learn 5 hours on Monday and then do nothing for the rest of the week, right? Consistency is important. You want your brain, you want your mind to be grappling and thinking about the language. If you're working on the language every day, you're sending the message to your brain that this is important because we need to deal with it frequently. And so your brain responds, right? So the key is to work daily, consistently. It's better to work a bit daily than to work too much for a short period of time. This is kind of self-explanatory, right? How the heck are you going to learn a language if you're not working on it consistently, right? It's not going to happen. All right. And then this is the final tip. This has been quite a long video. Here's the final tip. You want to learn the most frequent language structures first. Yeah? So what is a language structure? Here's how I'm going to explain it. In nature, we have problems that happen over and over again. For example, there is a problem of breathing. As a human being, you need to breathe every single second pretty much, right? You have to breathe, I don't know if it's every single second, but you have to breathe very often, right? So breathing is an important problem for your body, and it occurs because it occurs so frequently. And so in order to solve the problem of breathing, you have the respiratory system, right? It's an unconscious process system that enables you to solve this problem of breathing. You have other systems that solve other problems. For example, the digestive system, right? That solves the problem of you taking in energy and giving energy to the body. And then there is waste. So you have excretory system, getting rid of unwanted stuff in the body, right? So you have systems that work unconsciously to help you to deal with something that happens again and again. Now, imagine if your respiratory system fails, you can't breathe. Then do you have time to think about how to learn a language, what you're going to eat for dinner tomorrow? No, right? Because that problem is fundamental. If it's not solved, if let's say I start to choke you right now, all you're going to focus on is the fact that you can't breathe. All your energy, all your effort, all your being is going to be focused on making sure that you can breathe. Because until you've solved the problem of breathing, there's nothing you can do, right? That's why you need a system to deal with frequently encountered problems. This principle is also true for language learning. There are certain things in a language problems in a language that you have to solve so frequently. For example, in a language, most of the conversation in a language happens in the present tense. So you need to be able to express things that are happening right now. That's very important. If you don't understand how to express things in the present tense, if you don't have a system for expressing things in the present tense, then you're going to be gasping for air. All of your energy will now be focused on, you won't have time to think of deeper ideas or learn anything more about the language because all your effort is focused on expressing things in the present tense. But guess what happens if you learn the present tense, the system for expressing things in the present tense? If you ingrain this, you repeat it and you practice it, now you know how to do it. So you're able to express ideas in the present tense in autopilot. This now frees up, it's the equivalent of getting a respiratory system. Now you can breathe. So given that you can now breathe, you can focus on bigger problems like what are you going to eat for dinner, what's the meaning of life. In this case with language, you're not going to be able to express any of your ideas if you can't really say stuff in the present, let's say. So there's many systems, language structures that you must learn. And my approach is to work with the most frequent. So in languages that have tenses, I don't know, maybe there are languages that don't. So for example, you want to start with expressing things. One of the most important tenses is the present tense. So you want to learn the present tense structure or system. In some of the languages, this structure is expressed by conjugations of verbs. I am, you are, we are. You want to learn that stuff and have it ingrained, so that you can be able to speak about about things in the present on autopilot. Once you master this tense, you'll notice that people will be complimenting you on how much you've improved. Wow, it's unbelievable, right? The reason they're complimenting is because you've overcome a frequent problem. Now you're better at the language. How good you are at the language is determined by how good you are at solving frequently occurring problems. The more frequently occurring problems you can solve in the language, the better you are at the language. Right? So if you learn the present tense, then now you can work on autopilot. Then once you do that, you'll now notice that there are new frequently occurring problems that arise. Maybe expressing something that will happen. So then you focus on that. You learn that language structure. Once you learn that language structure, you experience a jump in your understanding of the language. Then learn the next language structure, maybe the past. And keep this way by looking at the most frequently occurring problems and solving them. And the more you do this, the more you improve in the language. All right. So these are the 4 tips I have for you. I mean, if you found this video to be valuable, right, I usually publish videos every single Monday at 8 a.m. Central African Time. So if you like this video, please, of course, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification, ding, 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 That way you'll be notified whenever I publish a new video. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to catch you on the next one. See you next Monday. Bye.